And the first one I feel like we got to start off with, Steve, is a team that made the Final Four last year, and that's North Carolina Tar Heels. I mean, there's a debate that this is not just the number one team in the ACC. This is the number one team in the country. You know, they bring back some of their best players, especially one of the best big men in the country, and Armando Bacot. I mean, he was leading the team last year with 16 points per game, 13 rebounds per game. He was a very good player last year, set an NCAA record, but 6 double-doubles in the NCAA tournament. He decided to not enter the NBA draft, come back for one more year. That is a huge advantage for the Tar Heels. He's joined by a pretty decent backcourt duo in Love and Davis. I really like what the Tar Heels got going for him this year. I think that we can see a step up with the Tar Heels, which is something that actually possible? Yeah, I do think so. That's the case. What's your thoughts on the North Carolina Tar Heels?
North Carolina is one of those programs that everybody works harder to find fault with than they do pointing out what a great program that it is. They're not flashy. You know, they do everything well, but it's so seamless and they're so well coached that it's like, well, I don't. What are you seeing in North Carolina that we're not, that we analytics geeks aren't seeing, in this team? I'll add a Puff Johnson to the backcourt discussion. Each of their guards do something special. I don't want to say unique, but they each have their roles. I love me some Caleb Love. He is one of the best guards in the country. Again, is he going to be a guy that's going to be first, first ACC? Maybe not. But, you take him out of the equation. If he gets hurt or, pulls a hamstring or sprains an ankle and he's not around, it's going to change how this North Carolina team operates. I mean, you talked about, Bacot. He's going to dominate on the boards. The great thing about North Carolina, and this is pretty much their story almost all of the time, depth overcomes your injuries. Depth overcomes a tough early start in the first half of a ball game. Depth answers the questions come March. And that's why people have North Carolina as the number one team in the country, in many, many rankings. I can't say that I agree. I have a team that we'll talk about a little bit later on in this preview that I honestly think is the best team in the country. And it's not in the ACC. It is in the Big East. But North Carolina, okay, you can take ink and put them in the Final Four. It's not pencil them in. A lot of things have to go wrong, and more from an injury standpoint. I mean, they're going to gel. They got up to a bad start last year by North Carolina standards. I don't think that's going to happen this year. Everything, as the season went on, they gelled and they really, I think, found themselves in the NCAA tournament last year, and that's going to carry over. I mean, momentum does carry over in college basketball where it does not in most other collegiate sports. Basketball, you have a late season rush or a late season improvement, that does carry over when those players come back. So North Carolina, don't sleep on them. I mean, and if you do, shame on you.
North Carolina was 29-10 last year. To me, that was incredible. I think that's something they really got to pay attention to. Second year for Hubert Davis. I think that's another thing to look into. Obviously had a fantastic first year as coach after Roy Williams. Big shoes to fill for the Tar Heels, something that really worked out for the Tar Heels in the last few decades. Roy Williams after their spin. There was a few mix-ups before Roy Williams came in. So there was obviously some skepticism on how Davis would do. He did a fantastic job.
Yes.
Is he going to do that again this year? Do you see that changing? Do you see him improving? I know you talk about maybe sophomore slumps with players. Is that a thing with coaches? What's your thoughts on that one before we move on?
I guess you could say that coaches, after the honeymoon, after that first year, things kind of get more stressed and you notice, you nitpick. Wait a minute, I didn't notice that, he did this, or, why does he slurp his soup or whatever? I mean, there's all those things you see after the honeymoon. Hubert Davis could walk into any locker room, whether it be at the collegiate level or at the professional level, and command the room the minute he walks through the door. So even if he makes questionable decisions or early in the year, I think there's going to be some tinkering as far as combinations and how they want to do things, and maybe they lose a game they shouldn't to a non-conference team. I mean, it happens. Hubert Davis, the ACC is a conference where coaches matter. Okay, Mike Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Hubert Davis, Steve Forbes at Wake Forest, Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. You can go pretty much all the way through the ACC, and the coach matters. Even on the weaker teams, the coach has the respect of his players, and the coach matters. So I think to try to dismiss, again, I think it's something that people more nitpick about. And I mean, and you and I read many of the same articles. I think they're just trying to find a way to knock North Carolina down. It's sort of like, to use a baseball analogy, people want to knock down the Dodgers or the Yankees, or at the professional level, they don't want the Lakers to be good. They want to find fault with the Lakers or the Celtics. They just want to pick apart teams that year in, year out pretty much get the job done. So I think if you're worried about Hubert Davis, you probably should start some medicines, because you really don't need to be worried about that.